Hi there, this is Judy Crow from Texas, and I'm here today to show you how to prepare an ACM aluminum composite panel for uh, painting. And I am going to be using golden bright white acrylic primer gesso for this demonstration. I've used a lot of other products. I've used Rublev um, products and uh, some lead priming. I've used some Gamblin oil priming. I've used Liquitex. I've used Jerry's Art Aroma gesso. There's a lot of different things you can use to do this. I'm just using this today. It dries really quickly. And that's what I did with this one here. Now, before I primed this panel, I mixed the gesso with some acrylic paint. And this is actually the Golden brand Raw Umber. And it makes about uh, this color gray. You can increase the color of the you can increase the amount of the gesso or increase the amount of the acrylic paint to make it darker or lighter. This is kind of a mid-tone. So, and I like painting on this, but it is a little more absorbent. If you want something that's not quite as absorbent, you probably want to go with some Michael Harding or the Rublev oil priming material they have. And I am going to put a list of those in the description of the video. So, okay, let's get started. I did a test of this a couple of months ago, and I promised that I would complete it. So I'm going to do that today. So these are some tools that you're going to need. You don't have to use these, but this is what I use. So just a regular brush that I bought at Lowe's, one of my larger palette knives, and a roller. Sometimes I use the roller to get it on there quickly, especially if it's a little bit larger. It leaves a little bit different texture than a brush. Okay, so let me move all of that and move this panel that I've already primed. And before I start this, I'm going to put on top of my table here to protect it from the gesso. Okay, so this is an aluminum composite material. I bought this from a company called Piedmont Plastics there in Arlington, Texas. You can order from them and they will ship it to you, or your best bet is to find a local supplier. Sometimes there may be a Piedmont near you. This is a little bit heavier. It comes in a big 4x8 sheet, and you have to score it and then cut it. Um, to do that, let me show you. When you score it and cut it, I use this box cutter, and sometimes it takes a little strength, but now this is a 12 by 16 size that my husband actually did. He cut those down for me, and they're not exactly perfectly straight, but that's okay. Okay, this is what the panel looks like on the opposite side or underneath this plastic. I'm just going to peel this off for you to show you. we'll use this side that does not have a scratch in it. This side has a little scratch in it. So let me just peel this off. Look at my old arms. Okay, and I'll get rid of that. Before you get started, I would suggest that you gather all your materials. It just makes it easier. I got, like I said, a palette knife, a brush, just a cheap old brush that I can throw away when it gets too raunchy. I've got some baby wipes for my hands, got my gesso, and let me see if I can get this open. I haven't used it in a bit. Good idea to wipe your excess off of the top lip of these jars. Here we go. And I try to do that, but sometimes I miss it. So, okay. This is nice and it's kind of like a thin paste. You can put it on with a palette knife. Oops. Or you can put it on with the brush. You can dip your brush in that. However you want to do it. I'm going to take a baby wipe and get that off of there right now because this stuff dries fairly quickly. Off. Oops, sorry. I just want to get that off before I close this back up. Okay. So I'm going to just start with my brush. And it's very easy. Now, of course, it would look different if I had toned the gesso first by putting some acrylic paint in it. Don't put oil paint in there because acrylic, oil and water don't mix, and never paint on top of an oil painting with acrylic paint. It won't stick. It will come off over time. Okay, so there's a lot of brush strokes in that. And I've got some water here for my brush. But what I'll do is I'll let this dry. Now I can smooth this out with something like this. You can use an old credit card. You don't have to use this, something like this. This will make it a little slicker. Or you can use your, actually, I like this texture of these rollers best. But don't let it dry on your roller because if you do, it will definitely, yeah. That is leaving a lot of texture, more than it usually does. And I think it's because this foam roller is old. So it's making that effect. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a lot of bubbles going on in there. So, tell you what I'm going to do is go back and just lightly, you know what? Let me just use my brush. I've also got a roll of paper towels here. I'm just gonna, I like the, sorry, my foot keeps hitting the camera. Pretty easy. I mean, it's not rocket science. So all you need is the right supplies, basically. And that does it. Now, next step is to let this dry. And I will let it dry for probably an hour. Gesso, when it's acrylic, will dry quickly. But I'll let this dry for another hour. I will use just some medium to light sandpaper and sand that down just a hair. And then I'll put one or two more coats on it. Probably this will end up with 3 or 4 coats. Let me caution you that if you're using ACM or aluminum composite material, don't sand it too much because you'll actually sand into the aluminum, and you really don't want that because you don't want that uh, the coating on there in the beginning. You want to keep that. You don't want the aluminum to bleed through. So, and I think that's just for archival reasons. Okay. So, okay, let's let that dry and then I'll come back and start over. Oh, okay, we're back and my ACM panel that I use my gesso on is not completely dry, but it is pretty dry. Um, I have that free version of Zoom, so um, I need to go ahead and finish this little video, but because it doesn't allow you to do too long. So, but okay, at this stage, I've got 1 coat of gesso on here, and what I want to do next is just lightly take the tooth, or give it some tooth. Take some. Actually, the sandpaper is a little too rough. I need some sandpaper that's not quite so rough. But just you don't need to do a whole lot on this. Like I say, you don't want to bring up all that coating that's on the ACM originally. So then I would go back to my gesso, repeat the process, put another coat on here. Then I would let that dry, come back and probably lightly sand it one more time, or and then I might put another coat on. Probably 3 or 4 coats is sufficient. So let that dry for another hour. Now, I just want to mention something while I've got you guys here, and that is this. You do not have to use an ACM panel. Just suppose you buy a canvas from your Michaels or Hobby Lobby or whatever. Let me find a place to put this down. Hold on a second. Here we go. So, suppose you get a canvas that's pretty cheap, and you've painted on them before or whatever. A lot of these cheaper cotton canvases like this that you buy at Michaels or Hobby Lobby, they're just not great to paint on. They either have too much tooth or they're too absorbent, or I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't really care for them. So if I do get one, I a lot of times will gesso on top of these. Now make sure that they are acrylic primed in the beginning. These are already primed when you buy them at the store, but you can just give it a couple of coats of the gesso that you like, and it will make these a little bit better to paint on. So I'm just going to do that, and I might give that, 2 or 3 coats too. Another thing that you can gesso are just pieces of hardboard. Let me see if I have any here. Anyway, you can buy fairly inexpensively off of Jerry's Artorama or Dick Blick. You can buy just plain birch um, panels that are already ready to. Now this has canvas on it, and I bought this from a company called Source Tech. There's the number, canvaspanels.com. But these are pretty expensive. So for just a cheap way to go, you can gesso these boards like this. I would sand these down before I gessoed them. Sometimes the edges are a little rough, but that's another option. Just going and buying MDF at the local hardware store, you can gesso that. There's a lot of different ways you can go that are not real expensive, and I'm kind of cheap. So anyhow, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. This is Judy Crow signing off.